Hello random viewers and welcome to the 8th episode of the government-controlled series we've been doing. Now it is time to use some of that science from the last episode in that long Minmus mission to unlock some important parts. And using those parts we have created this monstrosity of a rocket. It is not actually capable of going very far. It gets its advantage by being reusable. But to decrease stress on the engine bells, it does launch on landing legs. Those are immediately retracted after launch. And then it continues on these 13 engines. Pretty soon in the launch though, G-forces start increasing, so we disable the center engine, and then later on, once we are high enough, we'll disable the other center engines, just like this. And now we're just continuing on the more efficient outer 6 that gimbal. Dropping the fairing reveals the payload, which is a drive section for a moon rocket. We've also unlocked docking ports, so that means we can launch 2 separate pieces, dock them together, and then send it on a mission. This should theoretically give much greater range. The drive section puts itself in orbit, then we switch back to the first stage, which flips around and attempts to slow down before slamming into the atmosphere too hard. I'm also trying something a bit different on the music. This is a different artist who gives permission for people who don't make ad revenue. I don't, so we're going to try some of his music and see what you guys think. If you don't like it, let me know. We can change it, but I think it's kind of neat. It's a bit different, as I said. So landing is terrifying with this thing. You get very, very close to the ground before the parachutes finally open, and then you deploy the gear. And one of the issues I made is forgetting where my fuel level was, so I kind of ran out and hit a bit too hard. Nothing that a quick load can't fix. There we go, that's much better. And just enough fuel, still ran out right above landing, but it's fine because nothing exploded, and that's all that matters. But the true advantage of this rocket are those 3 docking ports you see up on the top. We're firing the recovery teams. We don't need them anymore. We have our own recovery team, and that is this crazy looking aircraft. It's quite difficult to get off the ground, simply because of its weight, and pretty much it's not very aerodynamic either. It's not built for any of those things. This thing is built to be a heavy lifter that flies at slow speeds, and has all this complicated equipment for picking up the rocket and carrying it on its back. So landing is tricky, of course, due to the extreme lack of maneuverability or anything useful for an airplane. But it does have lots of wheels, which means it can land relatively hard and take quite a pounding there. Not a great landing, but that's fine because this thing's built for it. What we have to do is then go up to the stage backwards, deploy this thingy, which will lock onto those docking ports, or 2 of the 3 anyways. It raises up by using 5 hinges that are all strutted together so that it actually has the rigidity it needs to move such a massive stage. By the way, that first stage does weigh about the same as the plane itself, so this doubles its weight. We adjust a small piston on the top to get the top docking port to attach, and then it's swinging back and forth and retracting the landing gear underneath the plane to try to get that lower one attached. That's a bit trickier, but once it goes, it doesn't matter anymore because it's attached and we can begin rotating it downwards. It does need rocket engines to do that though, because those hinges just do not have the strength. And then the other issue is it's slamming back down, so we quickly switch to other engines to cushion the impact as it rotates downwards. And then we drop it onto the side. There's one last piston to adjust to get that top platform correctly so it doesn't move back and forth, and then we extend these extra clasps to hold the stage in place. Unfortunately, I got them too tight, and you'll see on landing that the stage explodes. I loosened them a bit, and that fixed the issue. So here's probably up there in the sketchiest takeoffs I've ever done in this game, but it's climbing, and it's gaining speed, so it does fly somehow, even though it looks absolutely absurd. But we don't care about looks, we care about functionality and saving money, and this thing saves a lot of money. We're only paying for fuel costs of recovery, which is a few thousand credits instead of losing thousands by paying the recovery team. First landing, super smooth, but because of those tight side grips, there it goes. It blows up the tanks. So we're going to have to try that again with looser grips on the side. This landing is horrible, nowhere near as nice as the other, but because of the loose grip, doesn't matter. It takes it. This plane is truly robust. It's the rocket stage that we have to worry about. Yeah, even my training aircrafts I don't think can take such a bad landing, but this one does. It also needs full thrust reversers to get to a stop. The brakes just are not good enough. It has too much momentum. Well, now we refuel the rocket stage and send it on its way again. Now this carries the crew and the landing portion for the moon mission. This accelerates a lot faster because this payload weighs about half as much as the drive section. That drive section was pushing it. We skipped through most of the launch, get the lander into orbit. That took quite a while because it only had one engine instead of 5. This landing was even more terrifying than the last. Re-entry got very hot, just simply due to the extra speed we were able to give that upper bit. And the parachutes were not slowing it down very quickly. The main chute's open, and it stops so close to the ground. I almost forget to deploy the gear, get it out just in time, but I come down a bit too hard, and 2 of the 13 engines are destroyed. I determine that that's okay. Now, instead of using that airplane again, because I don't have a whole lot of time, I just used Vessel Mover and subtracted the cost of fuel. I won't do that every time, but just to help save myself a bit of time for schoolwork, I will be using that cheat, but I do subtract out the same costs that it would be to use the airplane. We then dock them together and head off towards the moon with these 2 Kerbonauts. The landing portion is relatively unchanged from previous missions. I just removed a little bit of unnecessary weight that was necessary for launches, such as cones on the fuel tanks, because we don't need them. This thing is held in a fairing on launch, and after that it's unnecessary. And that left some weight for extra fuel tanks. Here's getting into a circular orbit around the moon, detaching the 2 pieces, and continuing to the ground. Unfortunately, I forgot to completely refuel this thing, so we made our first landing at less than half a tank of fuel. We landed this large crater, get some science there. The landing goes pretty well, nothing too crazy or exciting. Just trying to get everything adjusted perfectly. We do have those nice updated textures of the moon. I'm not upgraded to Kerbal 1.9 yet. I'm going to let them get a bug fix release out, then I'll consider getting my save file over to that. But 1.8 did give the moon some nice updates. Nice landing on one gear and then the others. Flag deploy, and then it's back over to the other portion. This landing I did not start my engines until much later than I otherwise would have wanted to. I was just focused so much on getting into this little canyon over here, north of the crater I landed in, that I forgot to go to full power until now. And I was pretty convinced that I would slam into the surface. It looked pretty bad, as you can see here. Speed is still over 100 meters per second, and the ground is very fast approaching. And there's been a lot of these close landings this episode. I need to get out of doing that. But right before it hits the ground, suddenly all the speed bleeds off. I guess burning some fuel increased the acceleration, and it's able to land nice and gently. Well, I'm saving fuel by cutting the engine a bit above the ground and letting the landing gear take some of the impact. Another flag, then it's back to the drive stage to refuel, life support, and fuel, of course. We completely drain the drive stage until it's empty, and now it will serve as a communications satellite and also an emergency life support top-off depot for future missions. The lander stage has to get a good distance away, can continue to the next landing site. We first land right on the rim of a large crater and get some signs here. You can't really see the rim, it's about 1 kilometer away. Bill flies to the top of this mountain to place a flag up there, and so that's now 3 landing sites, quite a bit of signs from the moon. Engine full power again and into the rim of that crater, and we'll land pretty close so that we have enough fuel to return to Kerbin. I was hoping to get 3 landings in on this attempt, so 5 total for the mission, but the biome maps that we had access to did not seem to be accurate. I think they've changed biomes slightly, so I just elected to head home because I couldn't find another biome and did not have the fuel to go long distances. So here's that bit, going straight back to Kerbin. No more docking. We don't really need to be doing that. We've left that thing empty anyways, and it will remain there in orbit for as long as I need it. Turn trajectory gets it pretty low, and now the goal is to get rid of fuel, because fuel is weight, and the less weight we have, the faster we can slow down in the atmosphere. There's no decoupling the capsule, this whole stage has to re-enter like this. It uses radiators to protect the engine, and then those heat shields on the fuel tanks. Unfortunately, the heat shields do not heat up evenly, so we have to be very careful that one doesn't explode before the others by turning the rocket in various ways. And due to time constraints, I just elected to land in the desert instead of close to the Space Center. This lost some money and we had to use the recovery teams, but that's okay. As long as we're cutting back on the amount we're using them, we're going to stop losing so much money to them. It started to lose a little bit of control, but fortunately we were through the worst of it. And landing was hard, destroying a fuel tank and a heat shield, 2 heat shields I think. But overall not too bad, and we were able to unlock some more technology. As always, please be sure to tell me your suggestions, and please like, comment, and subscribe. Have a very nice day, and thanks again for watching.